up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
Good to see you too.
I'm going to bring in next Steve. Steve, how's your evening going?
It's going great.
He's getting takeout for dinner.
So, and we've got Pete coming on in just a second. But, and he just actually left. So, Pete will be joining us in a little bit. Guys, if you're not already, please like, subscribe, share. We've got some fun shows coming up, and I hope you guys were all here a couple weeks ago for our 200th episode that had trivia on it. And if not, go back and watch it, because if you think you know everything about Winnie the Pooh, you're probably wrong.
You're probably wrong.
So this week, in interest of full disclosure, I am actually at Disney World this week. So I figured with it being the 75th anniversary, what a better time to watch Cinderella. I'm viewing Cinderella Castle. Interesting note, does not have an apostrophe S on it. It is not Cinderella's castle. It is Cinderella Castle, which looks nothing like the castle in the movie. But Cinderella, I don't really know that we need to go over the plot of Cinderella. But with the person joining us, we might. Pete, how you doing this evening?
Sorry.
No worries.
I'm calling in from Arizona. I'm struggling a little bit with the signal.
Yeah, that's fair. So, in Cinderella, as I said, was put out in 1950. This, just a little bit of background about it instead of the story. This was the first original full story that Disney had put out since before World War II. As far everything before this was compilation movies. But this was the one, and this was the one that is kind of seen as saving Disney Studios. If Cinderella had flopped, Walt Disney Studios probably goes under. So this was the big swing that ended up after Cinderella. They really didn't have any more issues. So as a studio, so this was a very big movie in Disney history, and it really set a new tone. Because before this, really, you had Snow White, Bambi, Pinocchio, and Dumbo were your four plot-based movies.
Say the four of them again. Snow White,
Pinocchio. Sleeping Beauty's not for another 9 years.
Oh, wow. Snow White,
Pinocchio, Bambi, and Dumbo were the only four plot-based, story-based movies that he put out before this one.
Yeah, and then you had 9 years of like Saludos Amigos and Make Mine Music. Yes. And the one right before this was Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which was two stories made into one movie. Yeah, this was the first like true feature-length story in a long time that they put out.
So, in Cinderella, is there a scene for you that really stands out, that really goes, this is the scene that I think of when I think of Cinderella? And I'm going to challenge all four of us to come up with some kind of a different theme.
Okay, can I go first? I don't want anybody to take mine.
What do you guys think? Can she go first?
She can go first.
Sure.
she is the one that has seen this probably the most between those two. So I should almost let Steve go first. But yes, Kate, you may go first.
Any scene with the mice, any scene with Jacques and Gus.
No, you have no. On this,
I know, I'm getting there. But the scene where they are, well, my favorite scene is when it's Cinderella's birthday, and Gus goes,
it's not. No, it's not. No, it is not. It's just the ball, and that's why when he said "Happy birthday," he goes,
"Birthday, happy birthday." Yes. That I was getting there. My favorite part is when Gus goes, "Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday." No. Like that is my favorite part of the movie.
Cool.
I also just love the scene when all of the little animals have come together to make the dress, to make one of the dresses, and then the sisters ruin it. But any scene with the mice, my favorite. Go ahead.
Mine has to be with the song Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. I think that's probably one of the most iconic scenes. That's the one that stands out for me. There's another one, but
which is actually the animation of her dress is said to be Walt Disney's favorite piece of animation that they did in any of the movies. Is the dress transformation. So,
yes.
Steve, how about you? Sorry, Pete, how about you? Sorry.
Yes, Steve's is hard to top, but I would also say when she's running away from the castle and loses her slipper and the carriage like disintegrates back into pumpkins and stuff. I think that's a pretty iconic. That feels very iconic of the movie to me. So I'm gonna go with that one. I think that's a cool scene. But I can't disagree with either of the ones that Steve or Kate mentioned. Both great scenes as well.
And I'm gonna go with one that actually has very, very little dialogue at all. It's where Jacques and Gus are trying to get the sash and the pearls away from Lucifer, just because of the slapstick of it. You can tell it's Ward Kimball and Mark Davis that animated that. Especially Ward Kimball, because you see so much of that later in his Tom and Jerry stuff. That scene sticks out to me as emblematic of the comedy of that time in the Disney movies. So that's for me. Okay. Who's your favorite character? There are so many fun, literally iconic characters in this. And Steve, I'll start with you on this one. Who's your favorite character in the movie? And this one, I don't have to have you try and take.
Lucifer. Yes. I mean, there's the one scene where he runs into Lady Tremaine's bed and plops down, and you turn, and he just has that cat look on his face, like that smug look, but just overall well animated. Just that was, like you said, the earlier scene with him fighting with Gus and Jock totally cracked me up. So Lucifer.
Kate, muted again. She's still muted. She isn't even listening and paying attention.
It's a tie between
is it my turn?
Gus and Susie and Perla. And I have to say, Susie and Perla have a very, very
special place in your heart.
My heart, because Susie was the very, 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 very first character I ever premiered in the parks. That was my very first character. So Susie and Perla, and I'll tell you what, when you are those sweet little mice and you bend down to hug a child and then you try to get up in that hoop skirt, it becomes a suction cup and you cannot stand up. So that was wild. So, I mean, like I even have a little cup, a teacup with Jacques and Gus on it right over my shoulder here. And just all four of those mice. Pete, you go.
Oh, clearly it's the prince because he's such an interesting character. He doesn't have to have a name.
No, he literally doesn't. They never say charming at all. No, is this one where they do say charming?
No, it's Snow White calls him Snow White calls him charming. This one actually has no name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking, of course, of that one. I don't know. I kind of like Anastasia and Drizella.
Yeah.
Maybe more because of them in the parks, because they're so much fun in the parks. But I think as far as being wicked stepsisters, I mean, it's horrid when they tear up her dress, but otherwise they're just such
Annoying.
they're just twits for the most part, and I think they're really good comic relief, and when she's singing the Nightingale song, "Sing Sweet Nightingale." It's kind of my vocal range too. So
yeah, it's my son's vocal range too, only like down 2 octaves. So for me, I love Jacques. You gotta love Jacques, just because Jacques is really, to me, Jacques the best character, just because he's the one that's does the most. He actually helps the most. He's an immediate help to Gus. I mean, if we could all be more like Jacques would be fantastic. No, I'm not
they
going to let you.
they give that character so much personality.
Yes.
In such a short period of so quickly in that movie.
Yes,
it's really well done. I agree.
Yes, Kate.
I will say, if we were talking about in the Disney parks, because I know Pete said meeting Anastasia and Drizella in the parks. What was that look for?
Nothing.
Meeting Fairy Godmother in the parks, to me, is pretty magical and will always be magical.
Especially because the fairy godmother who does the meet and greet in Magic Kingdom, from my memory at least, has been the same woman for years.
Correct.
So,
and she's fabulous.
Yes, she
in
is.
every way, shape, and form.
So,
but I would say in the movie, she's not much of a character.
No, she's not.
I mean, she's not in much of the movie either, but she just kind of comes along and goes, "Let me take care of this," bloop, 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 and then she's done. Great song, but not much of a character.
Yeah.
There is a great extra about the person that it was, the real person that the fairy godmother was.
Yes, the real Verna
established
Felton.
after.
Yes,
Yes.
the real Verna. Yes. So, all right. Okay, so what is your biggest complaint about this movie? What about this movie? Yeah, and yes, Kate, there are things to complain about this movie. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
But you get to go last.
Fine. That's fine.
How about you? What's your biggest complaint about the movie?
So my daughter watched this. This is a great introduction to the princess's movie. And I know in 2025 we're not supposed to talk like this, but this is very much a girl movie. Watching this movie 200 times when my child was small, this was one I got rather tired of. And it's not that it's a bad movie or anything like that, but it's just not a lot there to hold as an as an adult, and especially an adult male. There was not a lot in this movie to hold my interest. So I think it's it's a great movie for little girls. I think some little boys would like it too, but I could see where for boys are more interested in action. And we talked about Peter Pan a while back. We talked about that movie, and that's very much a boy coded movie,
yeah,
right. And so it's not a knock against the movie. It does not make it not a great movie, but that's probably my biggest complaint as a dad, having to have this movie on a lot. So, what about you, Steve?
It's mainly about Gus and Jock instead of Cinderella. So, I mean, that's my biggest complaint for it being titled Cinderella. That's not where most of the focus is. Most of the focus is on Gus and Jock trying to help her and go about. So that was my biggest thing.
Yeah, for me, once again, the beginning of it's slow. The beginning of it is very slow. From the time we meet the mice and birds initially, with the dream is the wish your heart makes, until bibbidi-bobbidi-boo is boring because there's not much there. I mean, okay, I would go until that mice helping song, until they're making putting the dress together. But her interacting, meeting the stepsisters, and the scenes with the king and the duke are just why? I mean, they're not needed. Just put out the decree that the prince, the prince is going to have this ball. Would have saved you another 10 minutes. That wasn't really needed. So that's my biggest complaint is there's parts of this that don't really move the story along and aren't interesting when it tries to. So, Kate?
Welcome to the movie that started all unrealistic expectations of relationships for all women everywhere.
The man stands there and says nothing. I thought that was ideal.
I mean, listen, this movie, because you're right, this is the gateway drug. This movie right here is the gateway drug for all princess movies and for all little girls who are like, I'm going to find you shush, who are saying, I'm going to find my Prince Charming and I'm just going to leave a shoe for him and he's going to come find me and sweep me off of my feet. This is the gateway drug movie, y'all. This is it. This is the one that starts all these little girls with unrealistic expectations of relationship. This is the movie that pits women against each other because the stepsisters and Listen, I got beef with this movie. I love Cinderella. When you work for Disney, Cinderella, that is the magic and all of it. That's the pixie dust that they inject into you to make you believe in all of it. It worked. I love Cinderella. I literally have a Cinderella little statue thingy right there.
It's not her. It's not called Cinderella Castle for nothing.
Yeah. And yet, who goes and tries to light the castle at Christmas time? Elsa. Don't even get me started on that. It's not your castle, homegirl. But that is why it's not that I have this movie's a classic. It's not why I have anything beef with it. It's just this was the start of all realistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations.
And Kate, that kind of leads us into this next one. Does this deserve the classic label?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's a Disney classic. If you were to go up to anyone on the street and say name 3 Disney classic movies, Cinderella would be one of them without question. It's one that At
what age level? At what age level are you asking?
Any.
Oh.
Especially adults. Absolutely, this is a classic. 100%, this is absolutely a classic Disney. Yeah, I say no more. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, if you searched on the internet and said, what princess movie should I show my daughter? Pop up number 1, Cinderella. Yeah. It's the archetype for it all. I mean, and you watch this now and it feels cliched or whatever, but remembering at the time, it was Snow White and this was the second one, right? So you watch it now and you think of all the things that followed it, but at the time, this was a very original movie. It was based on a classic fairy tale. It still works like gangbusters, as Kate just said. I think little girls still see this movie and dream of being a princess. More so than most of them. I mean, you don't really watch Sleeping Beauty and dream that you're going to get pricked by a spinning wheel and go to sleep for 10 years.
Right. The fairy tale wedding.
The villains in this, well, yes, they're villainous. They don't feel as terrifying as in Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. Like,
well, they're more relatable. You know, they're bad relatives. We all have bad relatives. So no, I think 100% this is a classic. It holds up better than, I mean, 75 years. It you know, as I said, you don't have the modern view of the independent woman out of it, but it is still it's still a classic tale of a magical fairy tale that, a dream that could happen to someone that's down on their luck and end up being a princess. And, it's just very straightforward story. It still works. Steve?
I agree. I mean, I go fairy tale wedding. You look at the Disney fairy tale weddings. What does she come in? The pumpkin carriage, Cinderella castle. I was just at Disneyland, and the Cinderella stuff is like flying off the shelf. I mean, yes, re-promoting movie, but people are buying it. So I see Derek shaking his head, going,
I think maybe classic then was not necessarily the word that I was necessarily looking for. I guess my question would be, if you had to tell a person, go watch three movies from the beginning to the current to get the complete feel for Disney, is this one of those three you're showing?
Yes. I would show this over Snow White.
Oh yeah, because Snow White's terrible.
But yeah,
Snow White is not terrible.
Snow White's boring.
I would show this over Snow White. If you are wanting someone to understand the lore of Disney, like if somebody had never heard of Disney, never like Disney, what's that? Oh, there's Disney movies, okay, I want to kind of see the full spectrum. What do I need to watch? Cinderella would be the first one I would say over Snow White.
Yeah, it would be hard to say if we're narrowing it down to three, but
I don't think Snow White would be in there for me.
Snow White's not in there for me on three. I'm not sure this one is.
What would your first movie be then, Derek?
I'd put Sleeping Beauty over the Cinderella.
So
I would not. I don't think Sleeping Beauty is that good, in my opinion. It's a beautiful movie, but I don't, as a movie itself, this is a better movie in my opinion.
I would put Peter Pan up there.
Mm-hmm.
I would put Peter Pan there. I would probably, if you're going to have to put Beauty and the Beast there. Either Beauty and the Beast or Little Mermaid, you're going to have to put there.
Well, I'm thinking though, if you're talking history of Disney movies, you got to pick something from when Disney was making the movies.
Yes.
And to me, you got to pick something pre-1959, because once you hit 1959, they changed that animation style, and
I agree.
It's different. So it's got to be something in those early days. And to me there's the early days, which is the four that you talked about. Then there's the 50s, which is this, and I would agree with you. It's either got to be this or Peter Pan in that segment, and I would put this over Peter Pan.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Just because there's things I do not like about Peter Pan. So
this is more, in my opinion, you're looking at two different audiences. You're looking at little boys versus little girls.
Right. So
classic Disney, though.
Three, one for each audience, and you got to throw a boy movie in there somewhere. And to me, Sleeping Beauty has more of a chance to hit both sides of it than this does.
Yeah, that's true.
Beauty?
What?
Have we watched Sleeping Beauty?
No, we have not yet.
No.
It may or may not be coming in July. Actually, I haven't decided yet, but I thought about it for Disneyland's 70th. Throw that one there. Yeah. But just because since I'm at Disney World, we're doing this.
Got it.
But
I don't know if I'm only going to show people three movies. I don't think I'm going to pick Peter Pan because they're going to be like, wow, Disney was really pretty racist, wasn't he?
Okay,
Peter Pan has problems.
What are you showing from the first four? What are you showing from the first ones?
Cinderella.
No. Pre-World War
First
II.
four.
Oh,
I do not like Pinocchio.
I would show Snow White because that's where it started it all. Even though it's not necessarily a great movie.
Yeah, I probably would too.
But
yeah, Snow White or Bambi. Bambi of those four.
I don't want to scar the person before we.
What about Fantasia?
I thought about that. It would not be Snow White; it'd be Fantasia.
Because you get Mickey. You get the animals. You get some of the storytelling. You get his humor. You get his abstractness. I show Fantasia from his early ones.
Fantasia shows the ambition that he had early on, which let's face it, for how good Cinderella is, there's no ambition. There's not a lot of ambition in Cinderella. Cinderella is telling a simple story, done well, people that know what they're doing, but there's, as you say, the dress transformation, great, but for the most part, there's nothing spectacular about the animation in Cinderella, except for a couple of short scenes.
Right. Okay. So
that's a hard question, but I think it's as you said at the beginning, it's a critical junction in Disney history as much as Snow White was, that they had stopped doing true movies, animated movies. I mean, we think of Disney as always doing, Snow White, and then they always did animated features, and there was really almost 10 years in there where they weren't really animated. I mean, they were putting them out in theaters, but you wouldn't call them features because they were clip shows basically. And then
he only did 4 in the 50s. He only did 4 animated movies in the 50s.
Yeah, but it was
this Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, and Sleeping Beauty.
No, Alice.
Oh, right, Alice. Yeah. What I'm not showing people. So, okay.
But if I list those, I think as I said, I think I would pick Cinderella of those. Sleeping Beauty is a wonderful animated movie and went back to the higher level of quality animation, but it also led to them stepping back from the quality of animation because they spent so much money on it and it didn't do that well. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing we have talked about is totally iconic in this are the songs. So I want to know, of these, what is your favorite song? And again, I'm going to start with Pete on this one. No, I'm going to start this one, darn it.
Go for it.
One. To me, it's the Mouse Work song, where they're putting her dress together. Mainly because for me, if you listen to some of the lyrics, they're like, him, saying, Gus, I'm going to, I'll cut it with my scissors and I can do some sewing. And then the female mouse can leave the sewing to the women. You go get some trimming. In other words, no, let us know what we're doing. Do it. You go grab some stuff for us. You be the learman. So that's the one that has some lyrics that are somewhat at least dynamic at all to it, as opposed to, just incredibly formulaic for a lot of the others. But Kate, how about you?
A dream is what your heart makes. In my opinion, that is the, other than When You Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio, that is a quintessential Disney staple. And I mean, just listening to the lyrics of it, it takes a lot for me to get really nostalgic for my job at Disney, just because I was burned so bad in how getting laid off, and kind of how my chapter with Disney closed, where it wasn't my say. So, but that song, When You Wish Upon a Star and A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes, are two that will bring me to tears almost every time, because it feels like another breath of just nostalgia. So, yeah, that song I think will always hold a really special place in my heart, especially because I danced on Cinderella's castle stage. And I was one of the cast members that got to light her castle at Christmas time. That song is just very nostalgic to me. So that's mine. Pete, you go.
Maybe not as deep a connection, but I feel kind of similar with Bibbidi-Bobbidi-Boo. It's just, to me, like very classic Disney song. Makes me think of my childhood and things like that. So that would be my pick of the songs, and we picked the best three already. So Steve's
you can double up because he doesn't have to do Sweet Nightingale.
Or so this is
called. Oh darn! No, it's bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. I mean, as I'm picking out of those, that would be there. So, yep, bibbidi-bobbidi-boo.
Okay. Now, as we always do, we do cups of pixie dust out of 5 for all the movies that we watch. Kate, not on your nostalgia, not on big, but on the movie itself.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a solid 3. There are things. It's not one that I will actively go rewatch. If Casey and I were to ever decide to have kids, I would probably show it to my child with the caveat of, this is not what relationships are like. So, like, we are independent people. But I'll give it a solid 3. What would you say, Pete?
I'm going to give it a 3.5. Again, I do think this is a classic. There are many Disney movies across the history that are better, but there's not any complaints about this movie. To me, are minor complaints, and the good outweighs the bad. So I'm giving it 3.5. Steve?
And yes, even though it's a classic, I'm going with 2.5.
Wow.
I think it's just a weak overline story. So 2.5.
And that's where I'm at. I'm at a 2.5 also. And as we've talked about, how a 2.5 and a 3 is kind of my break point of would I go watch it again? Would I actually go watch it again? I will only watch the songs or the scene where they're getting the pearls in the sash. That's the only part of it.
A 3. If you give something a 3, that means you will watch it again.
Correct.
See, that's how I am with a 4.
Yeah, I mean, and I have been that 2.5, 3 level for the last 200 episodes.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm at a 2.5. If it's the songs, yeah, sure. Because I watch enough of those Disney Christmas clip shows which they always throw bibbidi-bobbidi-boo in, which I'm not sure why. But, I would accept it. The songs I'll watch again. The rest of it, I mean, although I do love hearing the voice of Lady Tremaine and as the voice of Maleficent playing Lady Tremaine. So,
I do have to say I would occasionally use the laundry, watch it.
Yes.
Yep.
The walls, the floor, scrub it.
And I will use the happy birthday. No. And nobody gets it, but
I would.
But yeah.
Happy birthday.
But we have all long established that none of the 4 of us have normal cultural references.
That's fair.
So, because we have taped this in advance, honestly, no Disney Plus news. Stay tuned to watch and listen to next week's episode. We'll get caught up on the Disney Plus news. But next week, it is baseball season.
Yay!
Which I still contend opening day should be a national holiday. If they're gonna make Super Bowl Monday a national holiday, Opening day needs to be a national holiday.
Super Bowl Monday is a national holiday.
People want to try and make it a national.
Only in Kansas City.
Oh yeah, because that's about the only ones that. Never mind. If we're there,
Not this year.
If we're there 4 years in a row, we at least win one of them. But no, we're gonna watch Rookie of the Year, and this is the one where the kid falls and hurts his arm and ends up pitching for the Cubs. That is the Rookie of the Year we're gonna be watching. So that's next week. If you have suggestions for us, we've got a couple slots coming up in April, but definitely May and beyond is pretty open. So please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. So message us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X, whatever. We have new episodes coming out Thursday on YouTube and all the major podcasting services. For Kate, Pete, and Steve, we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.